All right, I need to check something. Okay, episode 169. I promise not to screw up this time. Everyone ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. This is episode 169. I am joined again by my co-host, Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, everyone.
And we're back. We're talking about Assassin's Creed Mirage. We've got two fantastic guests rejoining us after far too long away. But before we introduce them and get into the talk, we need to give a big spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the story, the characters, our impressions, our interpretations, right up to the end of the game. Now, Mirage is not a long game, but if you haven't finished it, if you haven't seen the credits roll, don't listen to this episode. You should obviously still like the episode and subscribe and, join the Patreon and buy the merch, but don't listen to the episode until you've reached the end of the game. So let's introduce our guests. I'm just going to go with the person that's sort of top right on my screen first. Servalan, welcome back to the show. It's been far too long.
Thank you for inviting me back. It's great to be back.
And you joined us way back in. I've got to go back to the spreadsheet. It was episode. I think you're right. When we were talking before we hit record, episode 100. I think it was. Yes, way back in. It was 1st of October 2021, maybe. I don't know. Time's flown, and we were talking all about Arno as part of our Unity trilogy, and And what I will say to anyone listening is if you like our logo that we have on our podcast or our logo that we have on our YouTube channel, Servalan did all that amazing work. So it's just a joy to have her back. And our second guest joining us again. Now, Wolfie, you also joined us for part of our Unity trilogy a long, long time ago. But you also did a load of stuff, and you joined us for the Derby interview. For the community relief. So it's very nice to have you back on the show as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me back. This is very exciting. I love this.
So, Chris, where should we start? Thoughts on Chris? You get us started. Thoughts on Mirage?
Yeah, well, it's good to be back. I'm glad we're finally getting to talk some spoilers and just no holds barred here. So yeah, I absolutely adore the game. I like it a lot more than I thought I was gonna. As you know, I do like all the AC games, but I was a bit worried going into this one just because it was meant to be a DLC, and I was like, I'm not too sure about that. But pleasantly surprised in almost every aspect. Like, I love everything about it. I like the bit of shorter length to it. Although I do miss side things to do because there wasn't that many, so I do miss a bit of that. But apart from that, I mean, everything's so good. I mean, parkour's pretty nice, the combat's nice, stealth is on point, the music is amazing. I mean, everything about it, I'm really happy. So, who wants to go next?
Servalan, go on. What's your overall impressions of Mirage?
I will preface it by saying that I was very, very worried in the run up. Probably more worried than a video game release should merit. And probably within the first 15 minutes, most of my worries were completely dissolved. I really had that feeling that I was coming back home. And it was wonderful, whether it was the stealth, which the game forces on you very, very gently, but very efficiently, whether it was the overall look, whether it was the obvious nods and callbacks, like the entrances to the bureau, everything was back. So far, I mean, everything that Chris said about stealth, about the length, about the size of the map, to me, it was perfect. The one thing that I have a complaint about, and I only realized maybe halfway through the game, was the complete lack of modern day. Okay, not complete. You got 10 seconds at the start, But I must admit that as lovely as it was to hear a familiar voice of John Delancey straight at the opening, when I was about halfway through the game, I realized something is missing. There's a layer missing, and it's still fine. And I understand why, but I think that would be my biggest complaint, would be the lack of the modern day undercurrent. But otherwise, I am besotted.
Besotted is a good word. What about you, Wolfie? What are your thoughts?
I pretty much was exactly the same. Coming prior to Mirage, I did try to stay away from spoilers and all the Access the Animus videos, as lovely as they are. I wanted to go in blind, but I was pretty exhausted from Valhalla. And I do think that, a lot of the talk was, yeah, it's going to be just like Valhalla. And I just, prior to the game release, I was just, like I said, just exhausted, just like I wasn't ready for Mirage. But once I started playing it, it was a totally different feeling when I first started playing. And I agree with Servalan. It definitely is missing that modern day undertone. But the game itself, I have not had this much fun playing an Assassin's Creed game in a very long time. From start to finish, from beginning to finish, it was just, when I wasn't playing it, I wanted to be playing it. And I kept thinking of all the different ways that I could be stealthy and sneaking through the different areas, and just giddy, just happy. So, just beside myself with how well things worked in the game overall.
It is a very, very polished game. I think I might have said this when Chris and I spoke last time in the previous episode, I think I've had one detection that I thought maybe was unfair, but the rest of the time, everything seems to work, which video games, this is not just Ubisoft, video games in the last couple of years are setting quite a low bar for quality, but this seems to be, everything seems to work, it's been, you said it, it's been a joy to play, and I'm about 3/5 through a second playthrough, just because I'm just, I'm obsessed. I could keep playing this. And I think the fact that it's shorter and the missions are shorter, you can dip in for 30 minutes, do an investigation, do a case, explore a region, get a target, and you've had that little satisfying buzz, and you can come back to it tomorrow, Have you all played again, or are you playing maybe for a third time?
I'm currently on my second playthrough, but which basically was, I finished the game, I did the obligatory processing, I went to sleep, got up in the morning, pressed new game, and so I'm now on my second, but I'm taking this one very, very slowly.
Yeah, I think we're all on our second playthrough now, aren't we? Because I know I am, and like Serv, I'm taking it super slow. Like, I've not even made it to the first target yet, actually, on my second playthrough, and I've been on my second playthrough for about a week. So, but I've been busy doing other things. So.
What about you, Wolfie?
Yeah, me too. I'm on my second playthrough. I actually was just playing right before we started recording, and I did the first one, and I'm in the middle section where you can choose which, 2, 3, and 4, which ones you want to do. And I just did the second one. So I'm noticing a lot of little things that I, didn't get the first time. And I sit back and go, ha, now I see what you're doing. And
there's something I noticed on a second playthrough, but tell us what's in your mind first, and I'll mention mine.
Just some of the scenes with Nehal, definitely, the first time you don't
spoiler
really...
alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, the first time you really just, you're focusing on, the dialogue between, him and her. And I really didn't notice at the beginning, my first playthrough, that no one else is responding to her. No one else is, talking to her, or no one else is looking her way. When it's almost like, Bassam, you must have been standing there talking to yourself, or something. So
So I'll tell you what, I'll just mention my quick thing, and then I want to ask everyone about this topic. So my quick thing, I didn't really notice it the first time, but Roshan and Basim, mentor, initiate relationship, she's quite a tough teacher. She's tough but fair. But Fulad is actually quite warm, and it's really sweet. He's really Rebecca's got a bit more of like a big sister vibe going on. You know, she kind of pokes fun at Basim and, you know, sort of bullies him a little bit like siblings do. But Fulad is like the proper, almost like father figure. He's quite warm, and it's quite nice to see. Again, the dialogue is quite slim compared to some of the games you've had recently, but that was something that really stood out to me this time. Okay, so coming back to your point about Nihal, like you, Wolfie, I didn't notice it. The scenes are very well constructed. They're very well written. Even the blocking of the actors, I know some of them are not motion captured, but you wouldn't notice it. But I'll say for me, when I started to think, hang on a sec, I think it was during the 4th assassination mission. So for me, I did the Grand Bazaar 4th. Bazaar. And I just started to think, hang on a sec, she's arriving, she's disappearing. And I couldn't even structure my thoughts. I just had this little niggle that there's something going on there. But for all of you, Chris, you get us started, mate. When did you start to think maybe there's something else to this character?
I will be honest with you, I didn't really click until almost the last minute. Because basically, the whole time, like everyone else, I didn't notice it. Because I could have swore, like when I did figure it out and at the end, thinking back on the game, I was so sure that we did have Roshan acknowledge her at one point, but I know now that she didn't. So I was completely thrown off by that fake memory that I had. And I didn't see it coming. And the whole time throughout the game, I just thought we're going to get the typical, she's been your best friend her whole life, but we're going to fight now. And basically, she would be like the last boss to kill or something like that. That's what I thought was going to happen. So yeah, I didn't actually see it coming.
What about you, Servalan? When did you start to think,
I actually have a confession to make that it's a badge of shame that I will bear for the rest of my life. I had the good luck to be supported by a friend who was way further along in the story than I was, so I could chime in and share the impressions as I went. And after, I don't know, maybe the first 3 hours of the game, 4 hours of the game, I said, oh, so far so good, I'm loving it. But Nahal seems a little thin. I must say, I'm getting a bit tired of the cookie cutter snarky best friend. It seems to pop out a lot in games, and then we went on to other topics. And I think, much like Chris, I was completely blindsided by the resolution. I think the first time I thought something's odd here is at the point when Basim and Nahal ride back to Alamut, and first I was visually startled because he suddenly strips off the assassin robe. And that's a big visual signal that things are changing terrifically. Then he gets knocked out, and you suppose that she's getting knocked out too. And when he wakes up, his first reaction is, oh, she's not here. Oh, I'm sure she's fine. Which, well, certainly, she's shown to us as a competent young woman who can keep herself out of trouble, if anything, more reasonable than Basim. But still, I'm thinking, yes, I know you're going through a bit of a what's-its-name, but you're just shrugging off the fact that your best and closest friend may be captured or dying. But then that scene goes on, that whole sequence goes on at such a gallop that it slipped my mind. So I was completely blindsided. I was completely surprised, and I was absolutely amazed that with that one stroke of pen, a little instruction such as, at this point we see Nahal disappear in previous cutscenes, they've completely altered the entire story, altered two characters. And so, of course, I had to check in with my friend and said I finished the story, and I could now really use some emotional support. And they said, So do you still think Nihal is a Finn character?
Boom.
I shall now proceed to eat my phone. So yeah, complete surprise, and it was beautiful.
Yeah. Wolfie, you're in a tricky situation because you're a member of the subreddit moderator team. You probably struggled not to get spoilers, but were you able to keep the surprise, or did you guess what was going on?
Because I was fortunate enough to play in early access, and there were several of us in the mod team that was given early access. It was a lot easier to avoid spoilers because by the time that the game officially came out, we were all done. So luckily, there weren't very many spoilers around to see what was going on, to accidentally have it spoiled. I had a kind of a weird situation happen, and kind of talking with others at the very beginning of the game when Basim and Nihal are trying to sneak into the palace so he can get the treasure chest. They get to the door, and he says something about he needs to find the key. So he goes off to find the key, and she's supposed to have stayed there. And at some point, and I don't know if it's scripted or if it was just it played out of the it didn't play in the right area. But he says something while he's sneaking around, and I had gotten the key and I was on my way back, but I wasn't back yet to the door. And he says something like, "Where is Nihal?" And I thought, well, he knows where she is. He just left her over by the door. So I quickly made my way back over to the door, and she's sitting right there. And that was kind of like the very first little, wait a minute, why would he wonder where she is? And then, yeah, later on, there were a few other times where she would pop in and out, and it was like, well, why is he seeing her? And why is all of a sudden is she there? And then, yeah, at the scene where he and her go galloping off, and yeah, he gets knocked out, and he asks Noor, was anybody else there? And he says no. And it was at that moment that I realized that Nihal wasn't really there. So when they approached, the temple, and again she disappears. Yeah, it was definitely obvious that she was not there. So
It's so clever because I'm enjoying the interactions just as much the second time. But of course, even with now that I know how it's going to end,
yeah,
watching Bassett and I'm watching the dialogue even more closely.
yes,
And again, watching the scenes, like you said, Chris, there is a moment, I think it's right at the start in Anbar when Basim wakes up from his nightmare and he calls for Nihal. And Roshan goes, no, not quite. Or she says something like that.
Yeah.
So she acknowledges that the name exists. She knows that Basim has this friend that means a lot to him.
Yeah, it was exactly that I had been thinking of, and I don't know why. It just in my mind was said to me that she knows of her in some way, but no, it's not like that at all. And to Serv's point, that whole cutscene at the end where it does show you previous moments from the game where she was supposed to be there and it shows you're not there, and I think that was just so well done. Like that, honestly, chef's kiss to that one, definitely. And again, there was another scene near the beginning that I should have seen it, but it's when you walk out of the building and talking to Nihal, and one of the wee kids sneaks up behind you. But she's there the whole time. Well, she's there. Not really, but technically. But he's like he's obviously talking out loud at that point, talking to himself. But the kids don't like even react to that. They're just trying to sneak up on him and stuff. It's just, I don't know, the whole thing's just weird to me. Like, I can't believe I didn't see it.
Do you think he's talking to himself out loud or talking to himself in his head? Do you think he's having a conversation in his mind?
That's a hard question. Like, it would make more sense if he was just saying it in his mind, but it's being presented as if he's saying it out loud, because obviously he's talking to somebody. Yeah. So I'm really not sure with that one.
What do you think, Wolfie? Do you think that's internal
think
monologue
it's
argument.
yes. Yeah, I think it's internal. I don't think anybody would actually not say something to him if he was standing there and actually talking to himself. It would be like, who are you talking to again? So
Maybe if you'd been introduced as the crazy guy from Anbar and not the
yes.
the master thief, you might have yeah.
Oh, that's just Basim. He's just talking to himself again. He does that all the time. So
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because the thing that I had in my mind going into Mirage is we know Basim's middle and later and very, very old life. We know if we've read Golden City, I almost forgot the name of the book. We've got that little snippet of Basim's life, which takes place a little bit after the events of Mirage. So, like, the size of the sandbox that the writers had to play in was quite constricted in some ways. You know, his pre life was known, his post game life was known, and I just think they did a fantastic job of making this story and making this character, and it all works, everything connects, there are no massive inconsistent, and why would there be, because you know the writing is fresh and current, but I just think they did an amazing job of a new twist on a hidden one and on a sage. Well, is he's a sage? Do we call him a sage? Yeah, we do, don't we? Yeah. By the way, for those of you listening, right, I just want to say we've got a video call going, and because we're very polite professional podcasters, we're going on mute, and Servalan's putting her hand up to speak. So top of the class, you know, please you don't have to put your hand up. You just go. If you've got something you need to get off your chest, you just go.
I was going to say that post Valhalla and in the lead up to Mirage, and even now, you know, that so many of us are finishing Mirage and jumping on the bandwagon. Quite understandably, people's opinions of Basim as character, especially since we've now seen him in iterations, are going to differ, and that's absolutely fine. But I remember after finishing Valhalla in December 2020, that my thought was, goodness, you know, I think we've actually now got the most complicated character since Haytham Kenway. It's been a while since we've had someone with so many nuances, with so many conflicting motivations, and obviously, you know, in Valhalla and later in Mirage, the actors interpreting Basim carried that amazingly. And when it comes to Nihal, and what you just said, that he's a sage, for the first time we have something that sort of worked out up to a point, because canonically, most sages have very, very troubled minds. Now, some bear it more lightly, and some just come apart at the seams. We're talking about this long sequence of Aitas from Black Flag onwards. But in the so when people talk, is Nihal Loki? Is she his dark side? Is she this? Is she that? One thing that I haven't heard mentioned, and I apologize for using mental health terms, and I hope that it's not triggering or offensive in any way, is disassociation, which is not an uncommon way of dealing with trauma. And for the first time, maybe we could be looking at a sage that blindly worked out a way to put the two together without completely flipping out. And I thought that was a marvelous twist on what is now an old motif in the entire franchise.
I did wonder if Nihal was a mishmash of these Loki memories and a childhood friend or sister. I don't know if there's any evidence that he had a sibling from notes or collectibles or dialogue in Valhalla, but yeah, I wondered if she was a bit of a composite. That's a better word. A composite of different sources, you know, or just an imaginary friend when he was alone that helped him cope with loneliness after, you know, tragedy happened to his father. But he's a rather tragic figure. I didn't care for him after Valhalla, to be honest. And yeah, kind of. I don't know if I definitely, yeah, I suppose I do kind of. I feel a bit of his pain, and it's that one line right at the end in the memory corridor, and he just says, "Will I be alone?" I was like, "Oh, fucking hell! Oh, that hit me right there. Like just that one sentence, and it was so gently delivered, you know." Yeah, I can't help but feel a bit sympathetic for the guy.
I definitely feel sorry for him. Like you, by the end of Valhalla, I couldn't care less about him.
I'm
I
glad it's
mean,
not just me, because I missed like massive character points there, you know.
No, I mean, it was cool. Like the first time you see him in Valhalla, I was very intrigued. I was like, "Oh yeah, there's the assassins. This is gonna get interesting now." And then it never really did. But and I mean that in terms of like, I think Eivor should have joined the Hidden Ones from the get go, but you know, they decided to go a different direction with that story. But I honestly feel like with this game now, this is answered a lot not answered a lot of questions, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of, it makes Valhalla make more sense and everything that happens in it. And I mean, it binds those two games together now, and I think that like return to roots thing they were going on about, like I can actually see where they were going with that now, because I mean a lot of people weren't happy with Valhalla, and I can understand that, but I think this is definitely it's definitely going in the right direction now. Put it that way.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you. Go on, Wolfie. Go on.
I was just going to say kind of the same thing. I did not like Basim in Valhalla. I actually did not like Basim even before Valhalla came out, when they first showed his like picture or portrait, or the character reveal. I just thought he was so smug looking, and I don't know. I didn't like him in the game, but I like him very much in Mirage. I think in Mirage he's charming, and he's actually kind, and he wants to please. He wants to he just wants to be a hidden one, and he was so cute. Really, I just felt like that they did um pretty much, for me anyway, it was a complete 180. I came into Mirage just thinking, oh gosh, this is just going to be, awful. I'm not going to like this, but I did. I liked Awesome very much in Mirage. Will it make me want to play Valhalla again? No. No.
I think we were chatting about this either before the episode, or maybe I've had many conversations in Discord with all of the people on this recording right now, and I almost would like to play it again. I'd like to re-experience all those scenes and those stories, the core stories, Eivor, Basim and Sigurd, but I just don't want to invest 50, 60 hours to do it. I guess I can watch the cutscenes, but it's not quite the same, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to live it and feel it.
But even at the end of Mirage, I wasn't. I mean, yeah, the whole theme of loneliness, it shows up several times throughout the game. And like I said, I just did the assassination of Ning, and at the very in the memory corridor with her, as he's wiping the feather in her blood, she says to him several times, this is, you're going to die lonely, and then again at the very end when he's with Nihal, and he says, will I be alone? So the theme of, the idea of loneliness, definitely, he was afraid of being alone, definitely afraid of being alone. But I feel like after the end game, I think he realizes he's not alone. All of these parts and pieces or whatever are all still with him. So,
and he's got his brotherhood, which he's now a fully signed up master, member of. I want to go right back to the start of the game, because Servalan mentioned it earlier. You know, there's almost no modern day, and we have one intro monologue from William Miles. Chris, you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I briefly mentioned it the last podcast, but yeah, I think the first cutscene's really interesting to me. I've probably watched it about 20 times now, just to like really like get an understanding of it. And I'm going to quote two bits from it that I think are interesting. So the first part is William Miles says, You once asked me about this memory. I lied. I told you it was lost. I worried the wrong lessons would be. Oh, no, I worried the long lesson would be learned, but this man lived many lives, and he has much to teach us. So, I think that whole paragraph is very questionable. Like, for a start, who is he talking to? He says, You once asked me about this memory. Who is he talking to? He's not talking to the player, right? We're not doing that. So, who could that be? And then he's saying, I lied. I told you it was lost. I worried the wrong lesson would be learned. I almost feel like this is a message for Desmond or something. I don't know. I can't quite figure it out. And then he says that, but this man has lived many lives and he has much to teach us. Okay, so this is just one life that we're learning about is Basim. So what else is he talking about? More of these reincarnations? Before Basim? After Basim? Who knows? I also feel like this could be a stepping point for Infinity. I don't know exactly why I think that, but it just seems right. So then we have the second part that I think is quite interesting, and he said, and I mentioned this before, is the time may come when we will be tested as he was. I fear that time is coming soon. Now, I think that is probably the most loaded part of the whole game, and it's within the first 5 minutes of it, because Serv, you want to say something?
No, please finish what you were saying.
I'm just going to say, the time has come when we'll be tested as he was. I feel that time is coming soon. Again, this would point to maybe the next game or the future of modern day. So, I don't know. Take it away, Serv.
I had a terribly, terribly salty thought on hearing that monologue. And when I started the game again and watched again, I had the thought again. And that is that if the last chapter of Valhalla was a very, very nice extended advertisement for Mirage, William Miles's monologue was an excellent short advert for Infinity. And this is obviously nothing on the writing of the speech, which is deliciously blank in places, and certainly nothing on the delivery. I did get that feeling like you're actually very carefully laying out modern day so that it could go any which way from there, which is kind of actually wonderful, because if it suggests that, yeah, we're going to get some more modern day, I'm all for it.
Wasn't it said at some point that the modern day was going forward was going to be just in Infinity? Or am I completely making that up? Don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was said at one point.
I think the problem with Infinity is that code name was leaked 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Year and a half ago, and the information is sketchy and at best, and it could almost mean anything, including, so long has elapsed, so much time has elapsed from when it was first leaked to even now. We're recording end of October 2023. What Ubisoft might have envisaged Infinity 2 or 3 years ago, when half a dozen devs were sat around a room with a whiteboard, could be completely different to what they're planning now. It could be nothing.
Yeah, it could be absolutely
they could look at Mirage and say, people are loving it. Why would we spend time and money on voice acting, animating, mocapping a modern day. That would make me sad, but you could make a cold, hard business decision that people just want to explore Japan in AC Red or medieval Germany or whatever it's going to be in Hexe and all these other games that are queued up, that would make me sad. Just to be clear, I'm not advocating for, if you work for Ubisoft, please don't do this. But, they could make that decision. I think I saw a few people, this might have been on the subreddit, Wolfie, where they showed the visual design of the animated backdrop while William was speaking. Looks very similar to some of the renders we've seen for Infinity's hub. Now, whether those renders are real or not, who knows? But just from a visual point of view, it does look rather familiar.
Yeah, I think
it's a shame they'll go on, Wolfie.
No, I was just going to say, I think that, you are right. We just don't know at this point in time what Infinity is, or, what's going to happen with the modern day. I do think, I also remember them saying that, the future games going in weren't going to have it, that it was going to be something separate, whether it's an area that you can access or something like that. And for me personally, that makes me very sad. I'm a very big modern day fan, and I mean, even playing in Mirage, all of the the William Miles monologue at the beginning. It's like, okay, yeah, this is good, and then all of the little Isu bits that we saw, those little bits made me happy, but I really don't want Assassin's Creed to just be a historical simulator. I think it works better when you have the modern day and the historical stories intertwined, and so I have to just kind of trust that they're going to hopefully make this work. But it being stripped out the way that we saw it in Mirage, yeah, that definitely made me sad.
I don't think they will get completely rid of it. I don't see them doing it, because I think the reaction would be really bad. Like, I know there is a lot of people out there that have complained since day one about the modern day part of it, but I think you need it to frame the whole thing together, because without it, it just seems kind of doesn't make sense.
Without that, you don't have a story.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole point is, the modern day assassins and Templars are each trying to outdo each other in finding the pieces of Eden, the artifacts and things like that. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a story. So
yeah.
I could go on, but I won't, because that's not about Mirage per se. So
well, it informs the future of the franchise. I'll tell you, when I first played my first Assassin's Creed game, which was Odyssey, every time I got pulled out into this weird loft space in London, who the fuck's Layla Hassan? I want to get back to that ancient Greek adventure thing I was really enjoying playing for the last 60 hours. But I have been through a journey, let me put it like that. And it wasn't until really, I think it's Brotherhood, isn't it, where you're parkouring through Monteriggioni's vaults, and then you see the ghosts of Ezio, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, more of this. So
Something, I've just realised something. I completely forgot about Layla. I don't know how I completely forgot. I actually really like Layla, but I completely forgot about her. And now that I'm thinking about what I said a minute ago about, I thought it might have been a message for Desmond. Or now that I think harder, no, it's actually probably a message for Layla. It was probably him. It was probably Layla that he was speaking to about that memory, because I mean, Desmond's been gone for a while now, so
aren't Layla and Desmond in the same place right now?
But I mean, he said the quote was, "You once asked me about this memory. I lied. I told you it was lost." So at some point, William has had a conversation with somebody about Asim's life, basically. So
I don't think it would fit, because although I like the idea, I mean, I like most things about Layla, but I don't think it would fit, because chronologically we know, thanks to Valhalla last chapter, we know when William actually gets his hands on the blood sample. which Basim gives him freely, with the completely, with the usual modest humility that we're so fond of. My friend, you're in for quite a ride. And we were. So I think the implication is that William is talking to yet another defined or undefined member of the Brotherhood sometime in the future, that he saw Mirage, as it were. He played through Mirage, as it were, and then probably got into quite a dilemma of whether to pass this on or not, because both Templars and Assassins have a nasty habit of sitting on Isu knowledge. Oh, maybe I should shut up about it. This could be dangerous. And sometimes it is, like in Rogue, when literally things explode. And sometimes it just bites them less theatrically on the behind, like in the case of Rehan and Roshan, because it was directly their decision of these things are too dangerous. The temple underneath Alamut is too dangerous for people to see, that directly led to conflict. So I find it kind of funny that William found himself in the same position as Roshan. I have all this amazing knowledge. Oh, no, maybe I shouldn't share it. So whoever he is talking to, he's obviously had to do quite a lot of soul searching to get to the point of releasing the memory. And I find that absolutely endearing.
There's, having knowledge. What's the point in having knowledge if you can't use it? But because don't they say in the dialogue that even Mentor Rayhan has never been into the vault underneath?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Element. So how long has anyone been on? Has it been sealed since the hidden ones were created?
It has a DNA lock.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
of
that's
course.
one thing. Or maybe
Yeah,
somebody
blood.
sometime managed to open it, or maybe it didn't come out. But I find it very interesting that that whole argument about sharing or not sharing dangerous knowledge is that, granted, it's all in hindsight and retrospect from the writer's point of view, but one of the little speeches that Basim gives to Eivor in Valhalla is that he is terrified of the way how in medieval Europe all the books are locked up, all the knowledge is locked up and kept away. And he finds that, he compares that to the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, and he finds that to be terribly, terribly wrong. So if you combine that, again, allow for hindsight and chronological when the games were made, you're still getting someone who thinks that keeping things under the covers, keeping knowledge locked away, is a bad idea. And that's something that's a tension that's constantly running through the entire franchise. He's going over the well-trodden ground of, do we share this with people? Or do we just pretend we've never seen any of these devices, or that we have any of this knowledge? And that's an argument that's been going on since, basically since AC1, since Atzer's and Malik's argument of, I want to look at it, and Malik keeps saying that I should throw it away. So it's a nice continuation.
I also respect you for getting a Malik reference into the episode. Well done. Hey, we've all got our favourite characters, bless him. I was going to mention something serious then. What was it? You mentioned the House of Wisdom, and I wanted to ask you all about the House of Wisdom. So we've got this city that's been built from nothing in the desert by the Abbasid caliphs. There's this centre of learning. It's the Islamic Golden Age, as historians refer to it now. Now, what we learn in one of the assassination missions is, I kind of want to say spoilers again, but we've already warned people about spoilers. It's far too late for that. They're building a machine, the Great Work. And I have done that assassination mission 3 times. And the second time, I didn't use the disguise. I just wanted to see so I made a manual save. I ran in, did the assassination. It's far less satisfying because you get none of the cutscenes and none. So definitely, to everyone, use the disguise. Has everyone here done the disguise route and sat down in front of the machine and everything.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, I did the disguise. I haven't gotten to it on my second playthrough yet, but yeah, I did the
Okay.
disguise on the first one.
Yeah, I think that's the only way. You can just run in and kill him and, you know, drop smoke and then sprint out, but that's not very.
Is there fun in that?
No, there isn't. But I just wanted. It's my playground, right? I wanted to try it. That machine they were building. I mean, first of all, it's just fascinating as a concept that this center of learning, these scientists, such as they were in the 9th century, were. It's kind of like an animus, in that it lets you experience your memories. You know, there's one guy, I can't remember if it's in an audio, whether we hear it as a conversation or whether it's a collectible, but there's someone that says they saw, I think it's Al Ghul who's been into the machine, and he says, I've seen wonders that I never would have think. So it's almost like an animus. And I wondered if, and it's not obvious at all, and I might be just extrapolating too far, but the Order controls everything in Baghdad. They have the Caliph under their control. Is there a bit of a hint that the House of Wisdom itself, the entire golden age of knowledge, was created or encouraged by the Order of the Ancients in order to build this machine and advance scientific knowledge and all the rest of it? And it's never said, it's never even directly alluded to, but I did wonder if that's what the writers are hinting at, that this was the Order of Ancients had such power, and they deliberately assembled all this knowledge in one place because they wanted to push the development of science, because they had this inspiration for the machine. And the drawings in the office are just fascinating. The triple helix. One thing I did spot, do you remember the big drawing that Basim and Nihal look at, and Nihal pops out over his shoulder to look at it with him? It's got in the background at the bottom the diagrams from the original Pioneer spaceship plaques, the golden plaques that went out that showed Earth's position in the solar system, and I just, little nerdy things like that really appealed to me. So whichever visual artist or asset designer designed that diagram, I just say I take my hat off to you, because that was a fantastic visual. But I do wonder if that's a little hint from the game that all of this science is the Order of the Ancients corralling the cleverest people of the empire, of the caliphate, into one place.
See, one of the things I did think about before even playing the game, because I knew that the House of Wisdom was going to be in it, I actually was writing stuff about it, but one of the things I thought was that this either A, had to have a black box mission in it where you're taking out a target, or B, it would be like a central place for the Ancients, and it would be somewhere where they either, like you say, created or basically were using for their own personal gain.
I'm putting my money on they made an animus, a big mechanical animus, 1,000 years, 1,200 years before Abstergo started with their mark. Was it in the 60s? In the I think they made their first version, something like that.
It was either the 50s to the 60s, and I wouldn't be surprised now if they work in the story that basically that's where Warren Vidic that got the research. I can't actually remember now.
Didn't he take over from someone else?
Yeah, see, that's
But
what I
also, in keeping with real world history and technological race, there were animuses developed by the Brotherhood in Soviet Union, and that is part of Galina Voronina's backstory, because her mother was an assassin researcher and developed a kind of proto animus, but its use had very, very bad side effects, and it all ended badly. But I just was reminded when you were talking about it, they're building a machine so they can read ISU tech. Wolfie, wasn't there something to do with ISU tech that you wanted to gush about?
Oh, yes.
The memory seals, yes. When
Actually, I feel like, Wolfie, just in case anyone's new here, maybe you should give us a bit of backstory. What is a memory seal?
Yes, memory seals are, I call them little apple slices, basically. They are memory devices, and I don't know if they were first shown, but they were definitely heavily shown in Revelations. And every time Ezio found one of these memory seals, he was able to see, a period of Altair's life. And when Asim and Nihal went into the palace, and we first see, what was in the treasure in the box, I literally sat up and I said, no way that there's a memory seal in the box. That was my first, holy crap, what is this game going to do? So
You're
I was
so polite, Wolfie. I dropped an F-bomb as soon as that was on the screen. It was great.
I probably did too, but
This is a family show. Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
I was so excited. And then, yeah, when he, he's back in the hideout, and again, it lights up when he touches it, and I'm thinking, oh, this is good. This is really, really good. And there's and Nihal keeps telling him to go investigate this place, and he goes, and also to the shards, when he gathers up all the shards, and he has to put the little shards in there, and he gets I guess they're Isu, the sword, and the dagger or whatever. And I just love that kind of stuff. I just really, really love that kind of stuff. So.
It's another classic callback. There's one set of armor to get. There's one sword or spear, and that's it. That's all you need to get. And it was just, it's just. There's so much about this game I like. I like the fact that most of the chests are not even visible on the map. There's a few gear chests, but that's all you need. You don't even need any of them. You can complete the whole game without upgrading anything. I mean, if you like the upgrading side of it, you can, but it's just a joy that you can get one set of gear. You don't even need to think about the gear. It's about the mission. It's about being a sneaky boy, not being someone who visits the shops and constantly gets upgrades on his knives and all the rest of it. Yeah.
I think. I think too that the way that the missions were set up, with you're given the opportunity to do a couple of different, maybe enter a different area, or hire some merchant groups to get you into an area. And that again was all, I just think it was just very well designed. But I was a little, if you did one path, then you were locked out of doing a different path. And I felt like that, that they were, black box missions, but again, they weren't. So, you had your choice. You could do one, but yeah, if you did the one, then you would miss out on doing the other, and which does tend to want you to play again. So either you save right before you do a mission, but one of my biggest wants for Mirage would be mission replay. Just let me replay the mission the way that we used to be able to play, or even New Game Plus, but that that does mean you're starting the game over again, but at least you'd start over again with all your skills, though getting the skills and isn't that difficult. So it's a short enough game that you can easily replay it again.
It is. You're right. It is very short. We're hoping. I mean, I think this is pretty confirmed. But our next episode, which I guess will be 170, we're going to have Hayete back on the show. He did the Assassin's Creed No Damage run, and he was posting regularly to the subreddit of each game as he progressed. And then we had him on. We spoke for more than 2 hours. He finished every game without taking any damage, which is amazing. And we're hoping also to be joined by Leo K. So between the two of them, they're going to unpick all of the gameplay stuff, and Hayete has done his no damage run of Mirage. Now, of course, he's skipping the cutscenes, right? But he's doing all the missions beginning to end. It took him 4 hours. So if you really want to play fast and just do the assassinations, you can. I mean, I don't. I would never skip a cutscene because I'm here for the cutscenes. But it just shows how short this game can be. But you're right, Wolfie. I wish we could go into a menu or go to the investigation menu, hover over the icon of Al Ghul or Ming or whoever and just click on a button that says replay. And you're there, you're in the location, all the guards are back in their position, and maybe you don't even earn any skills when you've done it, which is fine. You know, you're locked out from changing your tools, your outfits. I'd be fine with that, but you just get to play in the sandbox. It's a shame.
Yeah, there's a little small scene that I missed the first time I played it, and the very last target. You are supposed to be able to go in and find the Khalifa's son in the bath, and I guess he was the one who actually spoilers. He was the one who actually stole when Basim, not Nihao, when Basim, and again, this is another one of those little clues, but he saw Basim kill his father. And there's a little small scene or whatever. And again, that's one of those things that I missed. And of course, I can't go back and do it. And I'm looking forward to getting there and actually going and doing that part of the mission, because I do feel like I missed a pretty big piece. But
Definitely.
Yeah, I would love for mission replay to be in this game.
Absolutely. I doubt we'll get it. I'm guessing. What I found interesting was ahead of the release. In fact, I think it was during the red carpet event that Chris. Did you attend that as well, Wolfie? I think I saw your little avatar running around.
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah. That was a lot of
yeah.
It was, and I think even then, and certainly on release day and post-release, there's been a fair bit of commentary on socials about how to manage your manual saves, which they've never really bothered with before. And I kind of assume that's the dev team saying, well, look, we know people want to replay. We know it's either not possible in the way that the games are created now, since Origins onwards, or we could do it, but it would take so much dev time, it would take time away from other parts of the game we want to work on. So I have to assume that the dev team are well aware that people want to be able to replay the cool moments, the cool missions, but it's out of scale, out of scope for what they could achieve, and that's what they've been really emphasizing. Take manual saves. Here's how you manage your manual saves. You know, I think I've filled all my manual save slots already. Although I'm getting a bit confused because it's cloud sync, and I've got the PC where I'm doing that hour intermittent. I've had a very busy couple of weeks of work, so I've not done as many live streams as I wanted, but between the live stream saves and the PlayStation saves, it's all getting a bit messed up as to where I am. But yeah, I would love it. It's one of the few and even then I can't bring myself to criticize the game for it, because they never said it was going to be there. I would love it. Like, there's lots of little things which I could say, I wish Mirage did that, I wish Mirage did this, but actually none of the gripes bother me really. Because it's just a joy to be in that city, and you know, like you said, parkouring is fun. Sprinting across the rooftops. They took a terrible movement system and they made it fast and flowing. You know, I know you haven't got the amazing control of the earlier games, but I think they did an amazing job of taking something quite stinky and you know.
Can I just say something about the past games? I've went through in the past week or so and played a little bit of every single AC game, for reasons that I won't go into, but
okay, interesting.
Reasons. But anyway, one of the things I did actually notice about Valhalla that I didn't really click to before, Ava's actually not that slow. She moves, she can sprint actually kind of faster, if not the same speed as Basim. It's that when you drop from things, or if you get stopped and then you need to start running, it's like our acceleration's terrible, but she's actually quite fast. And it's just like if you're parkouring, basically, parkouring in quotes, in Valhalla, then that's pretty slow. But if she's literally just sprinting down a street or something, it's actually really fast. So that's just something I'd never noticed before. And it wasn't until I'd played Mirage and then went back to it, I was like, actually, she's not that slow. It's just our weight. Like when you drop off of something and then you try to run, it's like takes about 10 years. So yeah,
She would come. I remember you'd get to like the edge of a roof, and there'd be this awkward stop and this quite long animation as she tottered forward and then balanced back, and it was like, just let me run, guys.
yeah, and especially like jumping off of like a building, and then like as she drops to get up to run, it's just such a slow movement. But anyway, no, compared to that, Basim's movement is it's beautiful. I like it. Sorry,
Have
that was
any
just
of you
something I wanted to say.
seen? No, you go for it. Hey, that's why we're here. Have any of you seen the footage of that new parkour mod, the Mirage? It's a PC only. It's an edit of. I think you'd have to make this edit every time you ran the game because you need to do it in Cheat Engine, and it changes one of the values for his movement to the point where he can make longer and faster side ejects and back ejects, and it looks incredible. It looks like Unity, dare I say, but without all the crap, and it's amazing. Now, apparently, in tweaking this value to make Basim a little bit more flexible and more maneuverable, it also apparently can affect some other movement in a negative way. So it's not a fix, but it looks. I've seen some footage. I definitely recommend anyone listening to this just go and find some footage of this mod. And of course, in those particular areas of the city where it's dense and it's perfect for scripted movement, it looks fantastic. It really does. So it almost feels like there's the nub of a good system hidden in there. It just needs more time, Anyway, I want to talk about the genie. Actually, Wolfie, you wanted to make a point first of all about mythology. So let's go over to you. What did you think about the more mystical aspects?
I do. I am not a fan of Norse mythology. So when they started talking about how when Mirage was first starting to be talked about or whatever, and then we started seeing the genie. I think it was Sarah Blue who immediately came on and said it is not Loki, and she was right, and I love her for it. I am so glad that it wasn't just a mythological creature. Instead, it was just the representation of trauma, and when it turned out he was placed in the machine, and he was trying to bury his past memories or whatever. He was just trying to bury the trauma, basically, and all the genie was just a representation of that trauma and the bad memories. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm just it would have been so easy to just we have a monster in the game, and now he has to fight the monster, and there was none of that, and I was very glad for it.
Yeah, go on, Sev.
I was just wanting to continue on from what Wolfie was saying about mythology, Norse mythology. Yes, I think it was an excellent idea to have the genie as a motif rather than as a creature. That would have flattened the whole thing. That would have been a bit too Dark Souls for Assassin's Creed. But one thing I've thought about, since Wolfie mentioned mythology in the games, and I know that a lot of people who are a lot more enthusiastic about mythology were very happy with its inclusion in Origins, in Odyssey, in Valhalla. I'm actually glad to see that toned down a bit, because I think it began to cloud the story. It's a clever way of representing the Isu. But what we all did post Valhalla is that we started saying, oh, but in this Edda, remember that Odin did that? But that story where Loki is mentioned as having done this and that. So how does that fit? And at one point, I thought, wait, this is we've lost the plot, we've lost the whole point. And people say, Basim would do that because mythologically Loki did that. And one thing that Mirage kind of almost clarified for me by putting both Loki and Basim on a kind of more level ground is that why are we trying to figure out Norse myth when all we are seeing is not even a filter? Eivor is watching the entire Asgard arc through a prism, not filter, because filter colors, but a prism twists the view. What you have instead is you have someone, most likely a scientist or some kind of applied scientist or engineer. I'm talking about Loki here, who is together with his mentor, boss, maybe best friend, Harvey, trying to figure out how to save his world from an impending catastrophe. So obviously he's messing around. I always like to think of it as, he's messing around with other research institutes where he's not supposed to be by his contract. He's in a relationship that for some reason is completely unacceptable. So instead of this man who brings about apocalypse with a giant wolf, you have two people whose son is taken away, who is who's the person they trusted, the person they're looking to save the world, is telling them, I don't care what you two are doing. If I get my hands on your work or your son, he's dead. And people say, Basim in Valhalla is so nasty. He's and the way he consciously manipulates Sigurd is really nasty. But when you think about it, let's strip off the mythological Odin imprisoned Loki and so on. Here is someone who, sure, murdered an innocent, lost his son, lost his job, was imprisoned, and while all that was going on, his other colleagues, Tyr, Freya, everyone else was like, well, Harry's like that, and you've always been a bit of an odd duck. We don't really care what's going to happen to you. So when he does come back, as he said, it's going to be such a reunion. When he does come back, no, he probably feels that he owes them nothing. And I was really very glad that in Mirage, we did not need to slice through all those pork belly layers of mythology to get to the story. So in that, I'm absolutely with Mirage's approach. It was short, it was succinct, it left tons of things unresolved, which is how it should be, because that's where the extra fan-made content goes. And I really, really like that. And it connected the character together, because what he did in Valhalla is consistent with what he did, how he reacted at the end of Mirage. And that was just chef's kiss. That was great.
They really made us a perfectly sized meal. Tasty, not too filling, left us wanting more. Yeah. I wonder, we won't get another Basim.
I hope we don't.
Will we? Do you think?
I hope we don't, for one.
See, I don't think we will. They already said that we won't get any DLC or anything for this, and I can't see them doing another game for him. But I think they will do maybe like a book or comic or something like that. Some transmedia.
It's enough.
Because
he's already had 2 games. That's only one less than Ezio and Altair. And I think he really needs to relinquish the stage to someone else.
True. And a novel.
Yeah. And a novel and several other transmedia bits. I think he needs to be left alone to enjoy the whole new world that awaits him in the 21st century.
Well, do you think we'll see more? We must see more about that part of his story.
I'd rather not.
I mean, we have to see more. What Basim in the future?
Honestly, considering how official content creation handles character plot lines, I would rather they didn't. So, but yeah,
because you think they'll screw it up. Is that what you're saying?
I can neither confirm nor deny. But I think I'm already seeing a thing with Cassandra that I'm starting to dislike. The same way it used to be like, oh, Ezio has to pop up everywhere. so you know it's Assassin's Creed. Translation: Ezio has to pop up everywhere because Ezio sells. I'd prefer not to see characters constantly being used for, frankly, slightly desperate advertising. So I'd rather,
Oversaturation.
I'd rather see what fans make of it. But we'll see. I'm not a big consumer of transmedia though, so maybe I should be a bit quieter on the subject.
Golden City was a good novel. It was a nice self-contained story of Basim and Hytham, and I guess I don't know if there's an exact date given, but I guess it would be a year or two before the events of Valhalla start. It's a good story. I think he's aren't there some comics that cover when Basim meets Sigurd in Constantinople? I think I haven't read them. Although there was I don't know if you all saw it, but there was a very good Humble Bundle deal a few weeks ago. A huge load of Assassin's Creed comics for not very much. Now, I don't really like comics, but it was 20 quid for 15 different comics, I think. And I thought, yeah, I'll make a donation because why not? I'll read them on my screen. It's not how you're supposed to read comics, I get it, but hey, at that price, I'll try and fill in some of the gaps in the transmedia. I wanted to ask, where is it? We have a document here with everyone's thoughts and talking points. Serv, you wanted to talk about the harem.
Oh yes. I mean, the game is full of visual delights and it's full of nerdy delights. I'm not an expert in any way. I'm not. I just have very cursory knowledge of the Abbasids and of Islamic culture of the time, but obviously you know enough to know what a harem is and how restricted it is. My first reaction was when that popped up, and on my mission log, I thought, oh god, I thought that Caravanserai was bad. This is going to be 10 times worse. One of the absolutely best guarded places in all of Baghdad, and locked up. How am I going to get in? And I think it was done beautifully. I took the suggested option of eavesdropping under the window and Basim saying, "Oh, actually, yes, those are the men who can get into a harem." And at which point I put the controller down and said, "You're going into a what? Dressed as a what?" Okay, all right. When I managed to get into the harem and started doing the mission, one thing I liked is that it let you walk around quite a lot, carefully, but without having to constantly hide, constantly sneak. You could actually explore the area. And it was so refreshing. It was so beautiful to see in a game produced in Europe. A harem, not shown as this voyeuristic, Orientalist imaginary brothel that's been part of the Western popular culture for so long, that it was actually, whatever we may think nowadays of the entire concept of harem living, that it was shown as a place where women live, where they read, where they plot, where they backstab, but also where they raise their children. That it was a house, not this imaginary cloud or meant to fulfill some kind of voyeuristic fantasy. And I was very, very impressed how it was done. And to top it all off, the mission itself was hilarious right up until the point it was not. And that was just one of the strongest impressions that I took away from the nerd travel through Baghdad, is that they really, really tried to make sure to be as fair as possible and to strip as much of the tropes and cliches that have always bugged and burdened the Western representation of that period of Islamic history. So that was a good cup of ginger tea with turmeric.
Now that's a nerdy reference. I respect that. I read in one of our many different channels somewhere that there are different outfits you can use for that mission that might give you different options. But did I imagine that, or am I mixing up two? Does anyone remember reading that in any of their conversations? Because I ran out. I ran sort of up and took a straight line to where there was a unit costume and put it on and just went on. But I didn't stop, and I haven't got back to that mission yet on my second playthrough, and I will spend more time there this time. Maybe if I'd have used Eagle Vision or Enkidu, maybe I'd have spotted another way in. I'm not sure, another costume, but I read that there might be multiple costumes, and maybe it's just a visual thing. You just look different.
No, I don't think a different costume would let you in. But there are, from what I understood, Wolfie, I don't know if you can bail me out on this, there are multiple ways to obtain the unit costume. I'm afraid I was in a hurry and I just went, oh, yeah, there you are. Sleep dart. Right, I'm taking your clothes now. Left the pool out in the street.
I was just about to say that. There is more.
But there are actually little scenarios with getting those. But overall, I must say the conversation in chats and so on has been very focused on costumes. Quite a lot, mostly visual design.
The character clothing artists have done well, indeed. I was going to say something else, and my mind has gone. What we can, Chris, help us out. What we can talk about?
Scholars. Let's talk about scholars.
Let's do it.
Oh, I was only kidding. No, being someone that runs a group called Scholars of the Creed, I really enjoyed the amount of scholars and references to scholars and the House of Wisdom and just all that stuff was just amazing for me.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that.
And one of the things I appreciate... Go on, mate, go on.
I was just going to say, bringing back the scholars to blend with and stuff, I really enjoyed that. So
I didn't use the groups that much. I used a musician a couple of times just because it was nice to listen to the music. Actually, on this replay, I'm trying to make an effort to find the groups and use them more. So I've just assassinated the harbour master. No, I had to infiltrate a place to get evidence about the harbour master. And I used the guards then, and I've used the guards a few more times. And it's quite fun just to let them go crazy, you know. Although I did get a bug. Actually, I did get a bug on this playthrough. So you might remember you infiltrate the Great Garrison with Ali to free his men, and then there's a very sad death. So I'd infiltrated the first part of the garrison, then we're going into like the inner sanctum, and the game bugged out. I walked through the door. Now a cutscene is supposed to play, but I hadn't remembered there was supposed to be a cutscene. So I walked through the door, and I start parkouring and finding the guards, and it's really funny. There was like 5 guards all in a neat row next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, not moving. That must be where they spawn in for that part of the mission. And they didn't move. And I thought, this is weird, but I'll carry on. Maybe the animation's stuck and they'll just start moving in a moment if I just carry on. So I carried on. I parkoured around the top over the battlements, and then there's one of the brutes with the key. Right, I'll take him out because I need the key to free Ali's soldiers. So I smoke bomb, threw a dagger at an oil jar, big explosion, everything looks great. I jump down, assassinate, but I don't knock him out, and the brute just sort of lays there looking at me. It's in, so the mission completely bugged. And then after a few seconds, he would get up, and then I could hit him with the sword, and he would fall over again and just lay there. And the only prompt I would get would be to revive him. So I thought, wait a minute, and it took me far too long to realise this was bugged. And I thought, this can't be right. Me and Ali are supposed to be freeing the soldiers and finding Beshi. What the hell is going on? And then I thought, reload a save, and it all worked fine. Anyway, I was going somewhere with this. Where was I going? Music. Chris and Wolfie both said in your notes you want to talk about music. So, Wolfie, tell us about the music of Mirage.
It's just amazing. I when I first started the game, before I ever even got into the game, when you're on the first screen and you have to hit X to start the game, I must have sat there for a good 2 minutes just listening to the music, and of course it looped over a few times, and I thought this is just awesome. And I just, every time you're in a mission, or even the combat mission, when you're fleeing an area, and there's music playing, and I liked the different tunes that would play when you're synchronizing the viewpoints. So depending on where you were, a different 2 or 3 different songs or tracks would play. I just overall felt like that the music was such a big improvement over the last game, where I would have long periods where I had no music playing. No music playing.
Yeah, I had that. Some people say they didn't, but I had exactly the same. I like to have the music. I'd have the music playing all the time in Origins, Odyssey, Unity,
Even
Syndicate.
just some quiet ambient music,
Mm.
when it's sneaking through an area or just running through the bazaar, or I think overall the music in Mirage is just
Yeah,
definitely
really
one of
fantastic.
my favorite Assassin's Creed soundtracks.
Agreed. Any personal favorites?
Daughter of No One, which is the track, which is the track that plays in the training montage. There's a few other. I've been listening to the soundtrack a lot when, like, at work, when I'm not working too hard, I guess. I'm just kind of on the computer or whatever. So I know some of the tracks by name, but there are there's some really good ones. But Daughter of No One is definitely my favorite.
Do you know, I'm just looking at Spotify. I don't know whether perhaps you get this if you use Apple Music or Google Music or whatever, but Spotify shows the number of plays for each track on the soundtrack. The Mirage theme is at the top with 305,000 plays. In second place is the Ezio's Family Mirage version. Fair enough, 138,000.
100,000 of those are mine.
Yep, gotcha. And then in third place is Daughter of No One with 101,000 plays. So, yeah, it's fantastic. I really like. There's one further on. I'm just going to find the name of it. I really like City Under Stars. It's got all the atmosphere, but it's got this really nice sort of synths, which gives it kind of a sci-fi feel. It's like a real nice mix of history and modern.
Sorry,
and that just really.
Did you say it was called City in the Stars?
City Under Stars.
Oh, Under Stars. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Because City and the Stars is a novel by A.C. Clarke, and I was like, wow, did someone throw in a Clarke reference? But no, never mind.
No, that's a personal favourite of mine. Chris, you wanted to talk about the music as well.
Yeah, like Wolfie said, the training montage song is the best one. That whole scene, actually, that whole montage is actually one of my favourite moments in any Assassin's Creed game. So that says a lot, and the music is a big part of that. I really like. There's a piece of music. See, when you're just sitting in your menu, and you've just paused the game basically, and you're sitting in your menu. There's a bit of music that plays then, and I don't know what it is about it. And I said this in chat weeks ago that for some reason there's about 10 seconds of it, probably not even that, but it reminds me of a song that would be in like a Bond movie. And I don't know, it's just it's the bit of violin that comes in, and I don't know, it's just there's something really nice about it. And that's actually the second game that's done that to me, where there's been a song that made me think of a James Bond movie, and the first one was the second Ori game. So I don't understand why this keeps happening to me. But anyway, yeah.
I will say on that point, do you remember the first? Was it the first cinematic trailer? No, it wasn't the cinematic trailer. One of the Mirage trailers used Madeline Duke's song, This Is How Villains Are Made. That would be an excellent Bond theme.
Yeah.
It's just... anyway, that's off topic.
That bit of music's really good. And obviously the Ezio's Family version, I think, is my favourite version of any of the Ezio Family versions, because I think the Arabic style to it just adds something to it. The song actually makes me feel kind of sad, but I mean that's not a bad thing, right? And it's a powerful piece of music. But whereas like the Ezio, I was about to say the Ezio collection, the Ezio's Family music, any other version usually makes it. It gives off a feeling of hope, or like good things are coming. But for some reason, this one actually makes me feel quite sad, and I don't know. I like that, and I think it just sounds really beautiful.
They did something very sneaky. Angelides did something very, very sneaky with that version of Ezio's Family. And that is that it's set in a minor key, which is deeper.
That's why Chris feels sad.
Sadder key
That
by
makes sense
default,
now.
and it's heartbreak. And that's a heartbreaking tune anyway. And in a minor key, that should be illegal, or it should come with a warning. What makes it even sadder, as I found a post by Sophia EA16, who actually figured out the Arabic lyrics that are used in Ezio's Family. I think this is the first time that a rendition of Ezio's Family had lyrics included. And they say, "Who am I? Where is my home?" So, just when you thought it could not cut any deeper, that sinks in. It's like, yeah, Chris, I completely understand what you mean.
That's really interesting, you know.
I'm trying to find her message because she put out a few tweets, did she, saying, been translating the so The Shadows We Walk, which is another track on the album, which I can't find right now, but I'm sure people can look it up afterwards. The lyrics are, this is obviously sung in Arabic. "This is unfair of you. You've been gone for so long. When people ask me about you, what should I tell them?" Which is nice and mysterious, but I can't find any of her others right now. But yeah, that's been interesting to read her messages as she's doing the translation.
Yeah, I'll try to find it and send it to you. The nice thing about all those lyrics is, to me, they reminded me of type of song that's very popular in Bosnia, which is we call it a sevdalinka. Sevdah. Sevdah is a Turkish word, and it actually means something like pain or grief, but I think it's more complex than that. And it's exactly that kind of song that either cries for someone who is gone, or over the end of a relationship, or over the loneliness. And obviously, I would imagine that all those things are interconnected, considering that Ottomans learned a lot from Arabic and Persian cultures. And it's just yet another thing that just fits in so perfectly from a completely otherworldly story, the one in Valhalla, that's pretty crazy even by the standards of Assassin's Creed, to something so small and compact and so beautifully wrapped up within Baghdad.
I think we've said this many times, like, everywhere you look in this game, everything's just so well done. Production, music, the world they created, the levels, the missions. I want to talk about Alamut. And I'm going to make one very silly observation I had, then one more slightly more interesting one, because I know we all want to talk about Alamut. So I'll tell you one thing I noticed, right? Mentor Rayhan. That guy's got a deep voice. When Basim's going in for his initiation ceremony, it's all very quiet. The hidden ones are holding the candles, and he extends his hand, and or is it afterwards? I think no, it's during and he's got this incredibly deep voice. He goes, "Basim ibn Ishaq," and it's like, bro, how much are you smoking? It's what the hell? It did make me laugh. Anyway, the other thing I liked about Alamut, and again, the first time I played, I kind of didn't spend too long exploring. And then on the second playthrough, I've been doing a bit more collecting of notes. Did you find all the little collectible notes? Was one that I found that was really interesting was there's a note from Rayhan, and he's saying, we want to keep all of the feathers. He's a bit of I get the impression he's an archivist. Who just happens to be, the mentor of the Hidden Ones. And I like that. Really appealed to me because that connects with the mission he gives to Hytham, which is, I want you to uncover the lost history of the Hidden Ones in Britannia. I think it also connects to the recovery of the Magus Conspiracy. Magus Conspiracy? No, that's a book. The Magus Codex. So I get the impression that Mentor Rayhan very much wants to record and store as much of the history of the Hidden Ones as he can, which I liked. Did you see the little note about Darius and his blade and what might have happened to it? Yeah, again, that's the blade that Cleopatra gives to Aya, I think, who then gives it to Bayek. But I'm not sure what happened to it after that. Layla gets it, doesn't she, in the modern day?
Yeah,
I think
Layla
she
does
uses
find
it.
she finds a hidden blade in the tombs, and then does the absolutely adorable engineer thing. She just duct tapes it to her arm, which is a proper way to handle an ancient
Absolutely.
revered weapon.
Absolutely, but there was quite a few small collectibles that just connect. There was one that talked about Iltani, I think, as well, which was a nice way of bringing that back, because her story had kind of been overwritten by the story of Origins. So I enjoyed that, but I think Serv, you wanted to talk a bit about Alamet, so tell us more. The training montage and all the rest of it.
Can you please time me, because I despite saying I was going to speedrun the game, once I saw Alamut.
Clock is running.
Thank you. Warn me. I think I probably spent a whole hour there poking my nose into everything. That what you said about Rehan being an archivist, that whole area is full of beautiful little bits and pieces that I felt were missing from so many games, which is kind of natural. It's the first time since AC1 that you actually have a community of assassins living together. Everybody else had their training either piecemeal or all on their own, or made it up as they went along. So this was the first time to see something like this. So the nerdiness, Rehan wanting history recorded, and Tabid, I think, who is a poetry nerd extraordinaire, giving this whole little impassioned speech about recreating Iltani's recipes.
Is everyone obsessed with the poet Arib? Everyone in Baghdad just is obsessed with this lady's poetry. It cracked me up every time someone... we should have a drinking game. Every time any character mentions Arib, we have to take a shot.
I think that was actually great, because from what I understand, and this is very limited, uninformed understanding, in those days, poetry would have been the equivalent of or whatever we do for entertainment now. People talked about a poet and a performer the way we say, oh my God, did you see Rahul Kohli in that last episode of House of Ashra? He was amazing. Poetry was very much part of everyday life. And the way we quote memes at one another, people would quote poetry at one another. So first you have Tabid the nerd. Then you have tiny details. One that amazed me, I must have taken 10 photos there. It's one by the robes. I'm not sure if it's a novice or slightly higher rank, but there's this dude doing his laundry in the stream. And he's sitting there scrubbing the laundry about 20 meters from the initiation cave. That's there. There's that whole feeling of a community living together, and the delightful little dialogues, such as, oh God, everything hurts. The training is so hard. I need to work on my footwork. I need to work on my sword work. You don't often get to see that. The actual process of training and the way they live while they're training. And they live quite frugally, but there's a huge sense of community, of a supportive community. The only inkling we ever got of that before in AC1 is the rest of the people standing around Masyaf going, there goes the jock Atair, teacher's pet. So that was refreshing. And the whole level design, there's actually tons you can do in Alamut. There are no collectibles, and there's no one to kill, unless you want to gut the dummies. But the parkour design is amazing, because it really is a training ground. You have these graded heights of a leap of faith. So you can try. And
really? I didn't explore it anywhere near as thoroughly as you did then. That's interesting.
There are 1 or 2 points where you have the logs sticking out of the bank of the hill. But you can jump from a higher one, or you can jump from a lower one. And that is especially wonderful in that first Alamut sequence before the training montage, because I made Basim jump over each and every one of them. And it's just so endearing to watch, a trainee land like a rock. which actually must be quite painful. So before it was also a lovely way to introduce the tutorial, and then when you get the training montage and the scene of her, happily clambering up the hill with Rebecca, hey, we made it, and of course when he flexes and flips while sparring with Roshan, you, the player, get the feeling of, oh wow, I have achieved this. So just in lore-wise and game design-wise, I thought Alamut was an absolute gem, which, of course, I know my time is running. When you come back to Alamut at the end of the game, is why it hurts so much. To see all of that, spoiler warning, to see all of that destroyed, to see all of that on fire, to see people lying dead, and you've heard them speak before. I don't think we've been served that amount of pain to that degree and at that geographical scale since the opening to Brotherhood. That everything is lying in ruins. So I think that was the first, oh God, moment of the finale for me. But also the beautiful ending with its painful parts, where the sun rises again and you can see Alamut starting to recover. So we got, in a very short game, we got given a lot more assassin lore, a lot more assassin life than we did in some much larger titles.
Wolfie, Chris, Alamut, enjoy exploring it?
Very much enjoyed exploring it. I do wish we could have gone back to it, after the game, just in free roam, just so we could have maybe explored more of it. The game overall is very fast paced. It doesn't waste a lot of time to get you from point to point, mission to mission. And it would have been nice to have been able to revisit it, like I said, just after the game is over, in free roam, just to explore more of it.
And we didn't get to go to the castle itself, which is a shame.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway from it all was that I loved every moment that I was there, but just wished we could have went back at some point. Because only going there at the start of the game and going there at the end of the game is a bit annoying when you can't, just replay a sequence or something like that. So if they had a replay, then I wouldn't mind it so much, but yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, manual saves.
When we first go there, and Hassan's in the water, and you're looking up the hill and you can see Alamut. I can't tell you how many photo mode pics I took just in that area before he ever even runs and meets up with Roshan.
So that is a postcard moment, greetings from Alamut. That was amazingly well done.
Yeah. But that design of that whole landscape, when you're up on the hilltops and you've got the view, it's staggeringly beautiful. It really is. Why would you ever want to leave? And you got a mission, got to protect humanity. But pretty stunning location. And like you say, it really brought home the brotherhood. All these people working together, and it's. Again, I think we might have discussed this in our last episode, Chris. I don't remember. I'm probably repeating myself. I do that a lot as I get older. But I think this is the most detailed mentor initiate training that we've seen in a game. A lot of them had to figure it out on their own, or it was all off screen. Okay, you're trained now. Last assassination, off you go, piss pot, and that's it, or whatever. But yeah, this is the most detailed kind of exploration of the leap of faith. Roshan explains why it's so important and all the rest of it. I'm there for it. I'm glad we can access it quite easily because we can start a new game and go and do it. But
it's
I enjoyed
not
all of that.
Second chapter or something, I'd say. But yeah, I'm really surprised they wouldn't allow us to go back, because I honestly thought it would just be a natural thing. Like, there'd be a bit on the map to click on, we just fast travel there off screen or something, but no. Oh well.
Talking of map, did you notice on the east bank of the river, next to Baghdad, there are buildings. Quite a lot of buildings.
I think I did notice, but I didn't really think too much of it.
Well, I just, and it doesn't matter, but I keep looking at it and thinking, you could have just had flat desert or, scrubland. Why are there buildings? Were they thinking of, is that like and again, if they were thinking of expanding the story, kind of like Constantinople in Revelations, both banks of the river, and then they deleted it. Why wouldn't you just delete the assets and have a...
Well, you have the Animus wall, a very, very pretty, or prettiest Animus wall we've seen so far. But I'm wondering, I mean, maybe the buildings will put in there. Hopefully, maybe we'll get time. Maybe we can add a few more quarters. I think the other reason you have buildings rather than just desert, because it's the other bank of the river. And in a place and around the river, you will have people, you will have structures, you will have the sprawl around the river, because as you point out, a fair bit of some other parts is desert. So I actually think, and that's one thing that's very nice, that the wilderness, sure, they called it the wilderness, but it wasn't that, oh, look, here's sand and here's 3 rocks and this is all there is to the place we once called Mesopotamia. You feel that the place is alive. There were little villages. There were people doing stuff. There were people trying to trade. There's that genius that took a whole bunch of Salamonia off a ship and managed to murder his entire village. But, what the hell? Things happen. And
that's a nice segue to our next talking point. I like that. Carry on.
So there's lots of nice little things.
Lots of canals. I had no idea, and again, that's not them just making it up. I didn't realize this area was so irrigated. But you mentioned the little tale of Baghdad, where this guy has gassed his village. Wolfie, you wanted to talk about some of the side missions, stories and tales of Baghdad and contracts. Do you want to get started? What were your highlights? Did you have any lowlights?
Well, of course, with the Tales of Baghdad, which honestly, the first time I played it, I didn't know that the young eagle was a Tale of Baghdad. I missed that. But yeah, I mean, definitely that was cute, and I actually like the way that Basim, when he climbs up there, and he's thinking this young boy is, trying to jump off or whatever to impress his friends. And Basim says, I climbed up here, but now I need help getting down. Talking to a child. So I thought
it was.
Yeah, I thought that one was really, and of course when a young eagle does make the jump, and then the kids call him Hytham. So you knew, right? Of course that confirmed it or whatever. But of the Tales of Baghdad, I mean, yeah, that one was definitely my favorite. I thought the one which was all the way up on the northern side, the city began with, or the little village began with a U, and I can't think what it is off the top of my head. I thought that one was a little annoying. I managed to do it just fine because I had picked up the vase, but some people actually broke the vase, and the outcome doesn't change. But
well, have you done it both ways yet, Wolfie?
I did not. No.
Okay.
I managed to pick up the vase, no problem, and brought it out to her, and then she breaks it herself. So, but
that's the thing. The first time I did it, and again, when we had the what were they called, world events in Valhalla, I hadn't really adapted my brain, and I have a terrible memory. And honestly, I really wish there'd sometimes been a quest log. With some of those, because I ended up burning everything, because I learned from one world event that if you set fire to it, you completed the world event. So that was my go-to with any world event in Valhalla: burn everything first. Anyway, and I was paying because I knew there was Tales of Baghdad, they're like world events. I was paying really close attention to her dialogue with Basim, and I sort of picked up a clue that she wanted me to break the vase for her, so I did, and then she got cross at me. So when I did it again, I did it the way you did. I carried it very carefully. I set it down, and then she smashed it. And I was like, oh, all right, well, but it did make me laugh that, there's two slightly different outcomes to that one. It is funny.
I thought the astronomer one was pretty sad, because you're at the end, you're given the option to either tell him that his dad either did or didn't, put his son first. It's either the work first or the son first. And either way, you're kind of screwed. There's just no happy ending for that one. And I thought that one was pretty interesting because there wasn't a happy ending for that one. Of the contracts, I think the boat heist was probably my favorite contract. And that was actually one of the ones I did very early on. That was the one where you had to not be detected, and you had to get the boat out of the little area where all the guards were, and then sail it off to wherever it was that they wanted you to dock the boat. But, I did that one first time, no problem, didn't get any detections, and I was very proud of myself. I did also like how the contracts towards the end, like if you did them all, they started connecting the whole thing with the perfume and the trader or whatever, and then at the very end, there was actually a cut scene, like you were going into a mission. There was a whole cut scene for that last contract, which I thought was done very well. So I enjoyed them.
The one that made me giggle, you might remember this one. You help out another new member of the Hidden Ones who's not the most talented, and it's the name of the quest. All you do is you meet him, you fight 3 or 4 guards, and you're done. And of course, with the I nearly said world events, with the Tales of Baghdad, you get no on-screen prompt, no quest tracker. You just do the thing. But when you complete it, you get the gong, and then you get the name of the Tale of Baghdad pop up on the screen. And the name of this one is Blade in the Crowd, Tool in the Shed. And that did make me giggle, because this guy is not the most effective hidden one, bless him.
Did you meet up with him later?
Say again?
Did you meet up with him later? You can find him later. He's outside he's in one of the bureaus.
Is he?
And, yeah, and he, him and Bassam have this nice little talk, and he thanks Bassam for believing in him or whatever. So it was very cute. It was a nice little. I just ran into him. He said he's hanging outside of one of the bureaus. I don't remember which one.
Well, that's awesome. And I think I shared this on Twitter the other day, and I didn't notice this at all in my first playthrough, but there are hidden ones in Baghdad walking around, doing their stuff. And that that really appealed to me, because in all these games, you end up being the only person doing anything useful, because of course you're the protagonist. I get it, it's a game, but you sort of think, well, is the entirety of the hidden ones resting on my shoulders? No, because we see in this game that there are other hidden ones, out there doing their thing. Chris, did you have any favourites from the main story missions or the side content?
I actually can't remember a lot of them, because, like I said, I'm not too far through my second playthrough. In the first playthrough, I kind of just went through really quickly, because I was just trying to get to the end. But I will say this, there was the observatory one really annoyed me, as you might remember, because we were chatting about it before the game came out, and it was because I did not realise that he was on the ground and I had to talk to him again before I could move on with the next part of the quest. But he'd already told me that I had to find these things, so I'm a bit looking for them, but I guess they hadn't been spawned into the game yet, because I hadn't. Like, he takes like 2 steps and then kind of goes down to the ground, but I didn't even realise that, so he was just sitting there the whole time, and I'm like running about looking for these things, can't find them, and then it dawned on me, and then I clicked on it, and he talked to me through eye, and then I was like, all right, okay, now it works. So yeah, that really frustrates me. But apart from that, I did enjoy them, but I can't really remember them.
Yeah. So
was-
any highlight? Oh, go on, Wolfie.
No, I was just going to say there was also one that frustrated me, and then I'll let Chris talk about which ones he did like. There was the dancer. You had to find the dancer, and I was very careful on sneaking through the area, and I had cleared a nice little path, and I finally find her, and she goes running off, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go this way, and no, she's running right into where I hadn't been. And, all chaos ensues, and I was a little annoyed. I'm like, but I just cleared if you just followed me this way, we could have gotten out without all this fuss. So, but go ahead, Chris, tell whichever ones you did enjoy.
I'd just been saying I can't actually really remember the majority of them, so I don't really have an answer for that.
What about you, Serv? Any highlights?
I haven't done many because the first time I rushed through, and then now the second time I am doing them, but I was kind of treating contracts and Tales of Baghdad as kind of little treats. Now you can have a little story as a treat. But the one that I did both times was the one with escorting and defending the satirical poet. First, it drove me nuts. Although it's actually not that hard, but I was still trying to learn the game. At first, it had an amazing glitch. At one point, there is sort of like an interior courtyard or a very small neighborhood square where there are several people waiting to be the stuffing out of the satirical poet, and you need to deal with them all before you can progress the mission. And one was missing. I couldn't see him. I went around, and at this time the poet was starting to complain, and why was I walking off without him? I said, shut up, man. And finally, I find the last baddie, except that he's spawned as a snake. Beware the snakes in the grass, and is just between one of those little covered cubby holes and a patch of poppies, and of course on the ground level. I'm standing there. I can't believe it. It's a snake. So throw the knife, dispense with the death noodle, and then comes the even funnier part, which is that people standing around me who very beautifully, NPCs tend to comment when you do something odd, like slaughter someone in broad daylight. How could you? How dare you? Murderer! I'm standing like, it was a snake. I've just protected your children and you yourselves, and you're all yelling at me. And then, of course, all right, poet guy, come along. I walk him out of the gate into Baghdad, and I say, and he says that he'll write a poem in my honor. Yeah, great, wonderful. Just please give me those tokens. Be off with you. I've had it with you. I pop back to the bureau, and there's a poem.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my God. And, you know, a bottle of favorite drink to whoever wrote that, because it was obviously a case of stylistic suck. It's the most cringeworthy piece of writing in the entire game, obviously done that way on purpose. And I was thinking, okay, so on top of irritating mission, glitching snakes, the fellow I just helped escape censorship and wrath is actually a really terrible poet. Why did I bother?
I will say, for my second playthrough, I have done most of the contracts early for the upgrade resources, the tokens, and the skill. Some of them have got skill points. The ones I've left are the escort missions, because I know. And yeah, back to the roots, including all of your favourites from the top 40 hits of bloody tailing missions and escorting missions.
That is one thing I have missed. I have missed in the game, and I just realized it now when you said back to your favorites. This game has no annoying people getting underfoot. No beggars, no minstrels. And I'm wondering now, is that because, they did do a lot to bring back a lot of elements, especially from AC1. Maybe at some point, some developer said, let's draw a line here and be realistic. Or was it just that a whole lot of people who worked on this game had played and loved previous games and said, okay, right, let's show some mercy. No minstrels, no beggar women, no tottering drunks.
I'd have quite liked it if there'd have been just one or two beggars. Please, sir, just a few coins. That would have...
It's the drunks that are the problem, no the beggars. I could not stand the drunks. Pain in the ass.
How did you deal with them in AC1? Do you just run away from them, or would you
just
stab
try and
them?
either avoid them, or, well, if you stab them, you lose, what do you call it? Your synchronization. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And it's classed as killing a civilian.
They may be annoying, but they're still innocent.
Yeah.
Okay.
They may be drunk, but
Fair
they've
enough.
not really done anything wrong.
Okay, I might be approaching this whole Creed thing from the wrong direction here. I'm not sure, but
I killed my fair share of bards in AC2. When they would run up and there would be like 3 of them in front of me, all trying to sing. I'm like, no, get out of my way. Fair warning. Okay, stab.
Yeah, so I think that they just decided, like, we're going to bring it back to roots. We're going to bring back all this cool old stuff from the old games. But I think, like Serv said, someone probably had to draw the line somewhere like, let's not bring back the annoying things that people just don't like. So it was like, yeah, people like, oh, blending, and oh, there's the scholars, you could use them for blending, but let's not bring in the beggars or the drunks, please and thank you.
All right, I want to wrap this conversation up and head towards a close. We've actually talked about most of the things we wanted to talk about, which is good. But I will just make one comment. Did Roshan get all of the best lines in this game? What poison did you lap from her lips? Pour your pain into the brotherhood. She had some fantastic lines in this game, and I've played the English version. Now I'm playing it with Arabic as well, and yeah, I think whoever wrote her dialogue did a damn good job. Any other final closing thoughts, Chris?
I was just gonna say there that I think you're definitely right. Roshan definitely got some of the best lines, and I was speaking to Arsh, and he's also doing his second playthrough on Arabic, and he was saying that the voice acting is just amazing, and it just sounds so good. So I definitely think I'll be doing that on my third playthrough. So.
All right. What about you, Servalan? Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts for the podcast, or just about Roshan?
Both. Either.
Okay. Well, I will say that as for Roshan, I'm still trying to get my head around her. But again, one more time, and also because of Shora's amazing delivery, we get 10 lines. In between 10 lines is this mountain of a character. Actually nuanced, actually complex, with or without any transmedia input. And tragic without being in your face, trauma painted with a very wide brush, but tragic in her dedication, tragic in her love. And it's tragic when you get to the point where she becomes, for a short time, becomes the enemy. And one thing that a lot of people have wondered about is why does she do it? Why does she react like that? Why does she throw down her hidden blade and walk off without a word? And I thought that was quite clear. She feels completely and utterly betrayed. She and Rayhan had agreed no sweets before bed, and then he goes and gives this kid a key to the pantry. We agreed on something, and it must be terrifying loss, because she's as she herself says, I am gritty and I'm demanding and unpleasant, but I do actually love you. She actually does love Basim very, very much. And she's heartbroken. So the fact that she throws down the blade and walks off, to me, is logical. Yes, it could have had a bit more development, but the game time was not on the side of extending those cutscenes and extending those dialogues. So again, you reader, fill in the blanks. But can I give my final on the ending of the game? Thank you. I went through the entire game thinking, God, when this game is over, will I feel relieved? Will I feel disappointed? Will I wish that I hadn't played it? Is it going to mess up all my previous opinions and headcanons? So when the game ended, I actually did this. I raised both hands into the air in relief, because the ending of Mirage Basim was done so wonderfully and so originally. There is no flip in the personality. There is a change, but they didn't go down the Dr. Basim and Mr. Loki route. There isn't a monster in the cupboard. The monster was there all along. And the thing that was really beautiful when I thought about it in retrospect, he comes out of the temple. He could just get on his horse, screw Roshan. She screwed him over. All these people bumbling about, farming dirt, now that he remembers some other technological stuff, he could have ridden straight off back to the next exposure of the Order, and he would have been a better head of Templars than Alan Rickon. He could have started Abstergo in 9th century Constantinople. but he didn't. He stayed with the hidden ones. And that's in holding also with how the last chapter of Valhalla ends. I cherish the creed that guides us, because he's always still that guy that has a feeling for the underdog, because when you look at him as Loki in Valhalla, he is the underdog. Get this done, get that done, stop doing this, stop doing that, stop complaining about your kid. But he actually stays an assassin. I don't know if he will forever, but it was heartwarming to not just suddenly have this blip out bad guy, just someone who's accepting. And even, when his closest real existing physical friend smacks him on the face and leaves him a scar, he just smiles. And that is nice, because that is who he is. He is Basim. He is the one who smiles. And the whole feeling was just, the game is not over. The game is never over.
Very nice. Wolfie, any final thoughts from you?
I don't know how I can follow that up. That was beautiful. As far as Roshan, I do wish that there had been more scenes with her, just because she was absolutely phenomenal. But I on the other hand, I do appreciate the scenes that she was in. She absolutely did care for Basim, and you could tell that she was very proud of him. And he, on the other, he wanted so much to be a hidden one, and you could tell that he wanted to please her as well. So I really enjoyed their relationship. As far as the game goes, I'm so thankful that this little game has just won me over as much as it has. I'm just so glad that the whole assassin fantasy or whatever was definitely there for me, and I'm so thankful that this little game has just warmed my heart so much, and I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah. Playing it again, I'm just consistently impressed and surprised at how much I'm enjoying it. And it's fantastic. More, please. More. We want more. Is there more? Can we have more? So we'll leave it there. We're over 2 hours now, and it's been a great conversation with you all. So thank you for joining from many countries around the world today, from many time zones. So thank you, Wolfie. Thank you, Servalan, for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for buddying up with me again. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully doing a bit of a gameplay deep dive. We'll leave it there for tonight, and we'll just say it is done.